Creedence Clearwater Revival with Fortunate Son. Quite a good fellas sounding song, that,
Definitely,
isn't it?
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what I got the biggest vibe from, because the scene that in War Dogs, this film, that happens is very, very evocative of Apocalypse Now.
Right.
That's what I got. Have you seen it?
No, I've not.
No. Well, Apocalypse Now is quite a lot like this, and there's quite a lot of homages in that. I mean, it's obviously that the storyline's got very little to do with, but that one part was very, very Apocalypse Now evoking. So basically, in War Dogs, directed by Todd Phillips, who's known for the Hangover series, a series which started amazingly, and then number 2 and 3 happened.
Collapsed.
And basically in War Dogs, you got two friends in the early 20s played by Jonah Hill and Miles Teller. Basically, Miles Teller is sort of a masseuse.
Yeah.
I guess that's a way to put it, for the rich and famous in Miami Beach during the Iraq War. And basically, Jonah Hill's character, Ephraim Deveroli, is sort of an arms dealer who picks up the deals that basically, government contracts are up for sale to sort of arm the war in Iraq for the American military, and basically he goes in,
and the Afghan military.
Yeah, he starts out by going for all of the deals that people don't really aim for. So most people go for like the big artillery stuff, like tanks and stuff like that. He goes for like all the equipment, like goggles and stuff like that. So he's making a lot of money off the scraps or the crumbs, as he says. And as time goes on, they join together and they sort of ended up going for the entire effing cake. Yeah. Instead of the crumbs, as they pointed out. And basically, as you can expect, that starts to get a little bit worrying when they agree a $300 million deal with the Afghan military for a lot of equipment, and they get pulled into a lot of dangerous deeds.
Yeah.
And you can imagine it gets pretty tasty. So, I mean, I think that there's been a comparison by The Guardian a couple of weeks ago to The Big Short.
Yes.
So this is the Iraq War's Big Short. And I feel like you do see a lot of comparisons that time, because just like in The Big Short, you have got a voiceover at times. In this one by Miles Teller, and in that one you had other people. But I mean, to be honest, there is quite a lot of callbacks, and I was like, yeah, I can see why, because it does sort of dictate some history to you. But I feel like
the other comparison there's another one that's better, and that's from Robbie Collin, who called it Goodfellas for Bros.
Goodfellas for Bros,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, but to be honest, I think that, I mean, it's got a lot of things to say, but it sometimes takes them away for like more sort of downbeat comedy.
Yeah.
It's like sort of lowbrow comedy, I guess. I mean, because Todd Phillips is a man known for The Hangover, and obviously The Hangover is pretty much like the sort of party comedy of the past sort of 5 to 10 years. I mean, it was ages ago, and I wasn't actually.
Yeah. But to be fair, he did make the first film he made was a student film that was alerted to me by Adam Hunter. Hello, Adam. And it was about G.G. Allen, which is the big rock and, well, he's just a bit of a maniac really, but it was the guy who used to do horrible things on stage. It was an interesting film, and I think the Todd Phillips thing is kind of less about The Hangover and more about the comparison for me, because it's a very interesting, and it proves that he can tackle these topics in an interesting way.
Yeah, it proves he's got talent for it, and he's definitely got things to say. And I think, to be honest, Miles Teller and Jonah Hill have really good chemistry. Miles Teller plays that sort of, I mean, he's got a family to support. He's got a baby who appears, and he's got a wife, and he's got to support this family. And you realise that he's just sort of, because they make a point that sort of it's not really them who would directly influence them all, because they are the arms dealers. But it's sort of like there was a really important point they made about the fact that they're not the ones actually going to the war. Yeah. They're just sort of, it's going to happen. They're getting in on their piece, so it's going to happen anyway. And then you've got Jonah Hill's slimy, and I know we just seen before we started recording that Jonah Hill's put on quite a bit of weight for this. Yeah. And supposedly that might be to look a bit more slimy, but you feel like
he does.
Yeah,
he does.
And you definitely see it whenever he's sort of like firing away shots, like just with like there's just scenes where they're testing out the guns and he's just got the AK just firing it wild, and you can clearly see that he's just a child in a kid's store.
There's the whole Scarface thing, isn't there? He's obviously very influenced by Scarface.
Very influenced, but I feel like you can just see like it's a properly compelling performance by him, because he is so slimy and horrid. But I feel like
he has that little laugh as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, just like The Big Short. This is a film that it's got that sort of lighter touch on real serious world events with a lot to see. I feel like The Big Short was a much superior film.
Yeah.
But there are definite similarities, and I can see why people did that. And this film definitely kicks off when it gets into its action. The scenes when they drive into Iraq are really, really good and intense. I feel like that was such an Apocalypse Now thing with when Fortune Son was coming along and just like, USA. I can see why he says The Big Short for Bros, because it definitely is. It's got that kind of thing about it. But you really do get behind Miles Teller's character quite a bit. I think this is a decent enough comeback for him, because it's a really strong performance, and I feel like the ending especially leaves you with quite a lot of things to think about, because war is a terrible, terrible thing, but sometimes you just people just end up getting caught up in it, you know.
It's been criticised for glamorising what they did too much.
Yeah.
Do you think it does? Because I don't think it does.
I don't think it does at all. I think
it has. It has to but it's just the way this kind of film works. You glamorise it, and then you go, actually, no, wait, it was really bad.
Yeah, because there are lots of consequences which we won't spoil. But there's a lot of things happening to these people. There are friendships broken. There are marriages put in disarray. There's a lot of things happening, and you've got Bradley Cooper in there as an equally slimy arms dealer, and he does a really good job of that. But he's sort of the parable, I guess, for the real world events, because you see him as he stands as just sort of the archetype of this world, because it's not a nice world, it's a grimy world, and there's always going to be people sort of trying to make money out of there, and they're not going to have any shame for it. But I think Miles Teller and Jonah Hill really do carry this above what it could have been. I think this is better than some people give it credit for. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I certainly enjoyed it far more than I thought. It's not like, don't go in expect. I know because it's by the guy who made The Hangover. It's in the trailer. Like, from the guy who made The Hangover. It's not The Hangover. It's not a comedy.
Not at all.
I didn't laugh that much. I just sort of. It's interesting in the same way as The Big Short. I mean, The Big Short is genuinely quite funny, though, to be fair. And any film that starts with Miles Teller being punched in the face after the year he had last year, he blooming deserved it.
It's like, you can almost say that. It was like, this is Fantastic Four.
Instant smile on my face straight away. Him getting socked in the mouth, it was like, yeah, you deserve that.
All that justice.
Well, there you go. That's War Dogs. Recommend?
Yeah, I definitely would. I think it's a really interesting take on the Iraq War with some really decent comedy, and I think the performance is elevated above what it could have been.